All right, let's talk about that for a moment, just try and make sense of why there's such an issue around tyres at the moment. So it could be costing us a lot more. It's the warning from the Tyre Importers Association of South Africa. Why is probably the most important question. Local producers calling for increased duties on imported tyres. Charl is the chairperson of the association, Charl De Villiers. Hello, Charl. Why could this possibly happen, and what's your position on this? Good morning.
Good morning, Gareth. Thanks for having me on your show. The local manufacturers are claiming that they are incurring injury through the dumping of tyres from China. We're obviously opposing it for various reasons. As it is today, we're already paying between a 25 and a 30% import duty on tyres into South Africa. If you also look at the products being offered by the four local manufacturers, roughly 2,300 variants or tyre models are being offered to the market. Of that, 80% is imported by them. So they themselves are also massive importers. And we can't understand why you would need protection for your own imports at the end of the day.
Well, this is exactly what I was about to ask you. Not knowing the industry all that well, I was reading through the statements and it sounded almost like cannibalizing their own markets by doing this. But in the end, if this were to happen, I know you're opposing it as the association. What's the financial damage? What could the jump in tyres cost? Let's start with private vehicles first.
Yeah, we've done some modeling, Gareth, and if we look at private vehicles, the smaller vehicles, 13-inch tyres, you're looking at an increase between 38 and 40%. This is, of course, if ITAC allows the maximum that they've asked for. If you look at 15-inch, 14, 15-inch, you're looking at about a 17 to an 18% increase. If we look at transport, our trucks on the road, there we're looking at around about a 17 to an 18%. And then lastly, taxi tyres. I mean, that's a big jump, and they'll be hardest hit by about a 41% increase.
And that's one of the biggest markets as well. We bring into that, apart from public transport there, taxis, buses, then we have the Freight Association as well on this. But I can't help but imagine if this were to happen, and I'm sure this would be part of your argument against this, is you're then going to see companies trying to find other tyres from other parts of the world, which could be even more expensive. We could just see a price explosion here that we won't be able to get back under control.
Exactly, Gareth. So what we're saying is that by imposing additional duties on China, you will simply move imports from a more affordable market to a more expensive market. So there will be an explosion in prices. We're already seeing that through the price announcements in this last 2 to 3 weeks by the four local manufacturers, that they will be going up in prices between 6 and 12%. This is pre-determination by ITAC for any additional duties being imposed.
So what's the next step from here? Who takes up this fight? Obviously, you're opposing it as the association at the moment. How does this get scaled up? What's the next step on the ladder?
Well, we're in discussion with ITAC. We've tried to negotiate or mediate with SATMC to find solutions to the problem. It was rejected. And so the next step for us is we've notified government that we will be opposing it, and we'll be serving papers on them shortly. That's the only next step for us really, is to take it to courts.
And is there another side to this argument? From what I understand, this is all in the attempt of protecting the domestic market, the domestic products. Do we have a good enough domestic product to manage this if these import duties were to be put in place? Could we rely solely on domestic? Is that realistic?
No, we can't. The four local manufacturers are not in a position to supply the demand of the South African market. Through globalization, they were forced to rationalize their production lines to remain competitive and cost effective. So what happened was that they reduced the number of models they manufactured in their plants in South Africa and started relying more on other parts of the world to import and supplement their product. So definitely the locals are not in a position to flick a switch and ramp up production locally to meet the demand for South Africa. We'll only see more expensive imports coming through, which the consumer will have to pay.
Oh, there we go. I was about to ask you about those costs for imports as well, because somebody has to pick up the bill, and it's probably going to be the consumer as always. Charl, I appreciate your time in speaking to her. Charl De Villiers is the chairperson of the association. It's the Tyre Importers Association of South Africa. You can imagine how difficult that's going to be to trying to simply keep your car on the road. That's private vehicles. Then you run a fleet of taxis between the fuel price and possibly what could be a jump in tyre prices as well.